truck driver from India has been released from custody after being accused of causing a deadly chain reaction crash earlier this month in Washington state. He spent just 1 day in jail before posting $100,000 in bond. But when police didn't follow up with a case for prosecutors to present in court, that bond was returned. The suspect entered the U.S. illegally under the Biden administration and obtained a commercial driver's license in California.
Folks, this is a really important story because I want you to think about how many times you've heard Democrat politicians, in a fake attempt to seem reasonable and moderate, try to say that, oh, we don't actually oppose Trump deporting violent criminal illegal aliens. We just think it's so cruel that they're, quote unquote, kidnapping and disappearing people from car washes. Well, you have the rhetoric versus the reality, which is actually, as a matter of fact, Democrat states actively are shielding violent criminal illegal aliens from ICE. And here's a prime example, because, folks, many of you may know that this year we've been talking extensively on the channel about the issue of illegal alien truck drivers in the United States and the mass casualties they have caused. And of course, this is an issue that ought to really be so common sense. I mean, obviously there is a immigration debate around it. These people shouldn't be in the country to begin with. But I would argue even outside of that, I mean, let's just think logically as to what may happen when you bring in people from third world countries who, first of all, in many cases, don't even speak English, which means they can't read the road signs. And as it comes to basic traffic laws, we've seen time and time again are coming from countries like India, which, I mean, has anyone seen what it's like driving in India? It's a complete free-for-all. There are no traffic laws. And so if you put that person on the road in America, especially in a big, gigantic truck, how do you expect people not to die? Well, this is exactly what has happened over the past 4 years under the Biden administration, where a bunch of CDLs are being given out to these migrants. And as a result, we've now seen multiple different cases this year alone where completely preventable, it's like almost dumbfounding car crashes are caused by these very illegal aliens. So we've also been talking about the fact that the Trump administration is trying to heavily implement reforms, right? They're first and foremost trying to say that you have to be a U.S. citizen or a legal permanent resident in order to even acquire a CDL, because after all, truck driving really is the top profession in, I believe, the majority of the U.S. states. Why exactly is it that our economy, quote unquote, needs the labor? No, they don't need the labor. You have a bunch of scumbag trucking companies who don't care about safety or American workers, liberals. I thought you're all about that, right? Higher wages, opportunities for people. And of course, secondly, right, it's just a massive safety issue. Well, amidst all of it, we've also been trying to explain to you that as the Trump administration and DOT make these reforms, Democrat states have been trying to fight it every step of the way, right? California, Washington, multiple sanctuary states are refusing to comply with these rules. Now, they deny that that's true. They say, oh, we're following federal law. Well, here you have another case proving our exact conspiracy theory, because, ladies and gentlemen, as of now in the state of Washington, we have yet another one of these illegal alien truck drivers, once again, who does appear to be from India, right? His last name is Singh. That is the second case this year, guys, of a fatal car crash caused by a guy with the last name Singh. He caused the fatal crash in the state of Washington, and local police ignored an ICE detainer and let this guy out of custody. For all we know, he could have just ran away. Right? How do we even know we're going to end up finding this guy at the end of the day? I mean, after all, he's an illegal alien. Likely by the end of the legal proceedings, he's likely to be deported. So why would he even take that chance? He's probably running free. And yes, another. And by the way, how's he getting away? Driving on the roads after he already killed people? We have no idea. But I please want people to understand this is Democrat policy and this is the reality. Please ignore all the rhetoric about how, oh, we're reasonable in immigration. It's the Trump administration that's crazy. No. When right wingers say that you are releasing criminals out onto the streets and you are causing the deaths of Americans, that is absolutely true. And please ignore whatever woke ideology or nonsense they throw out in response. You know, we've been saying repeatedly that the Democrat Party likely is a criminal organization involved in massive money laundering and bribery. And frankly, at a certain point, when I keep watching this stuff, when I watch the hardcore resistance against the DOT reforms, I also have to ask, how many of the crooked trucking companies who are knowingly hiring and giving out like fraudulent CDLs to these dangerous illegal aliens are also paying off the Democrat Party? You know, It's very interesting how the so-called liberals always end up siding with the very crooked and greedy corporations who are both undercutting American labor and undercutting safety, right? You would think the party of corporate taxes and regulation would care about something like this, but as I so often say, woke politics is a very convenient excuse to commit crime and engage in fraud, and who knows, perhaps that is another story we have here. But that said, we'll get into this here today, where yes, again, an illegal alien truck driver who caused a fatal crash killed Americans in the state of Washington. The state of Washington ignored federal orders for an ICE detainer, let this guy out of jail intentionally, so that way it makes it harder for ICE to find a guy who committed murder or manslaughter at the very least. So we'll tell you about it, guys. First, though, do us a favor. If you enjoy our content, make sure you hit that like button down below. Subscribe to the channel if you are new. And that said, all right, let's take a listen here to these details because they're utterly ridiculous.
An illegal immigrant truck driver accused of causing a deadly crash on a Washington state highway has been released, with federal officials saying local authorities ignored an ICE order to keep him in custody. William Ageness has more from Los Angeles. Hi, William.
Hey, Mike, you're right. Despite that ICE detainer, not only did Seattle's King County release him, it never even presented a case against 25-year-old Kamalpreet Singh, an Indian national who illegally crossed the border in 2023. Released by the Biden administration with a work permit, Singh got a California commercial driver's license, despite rules against giving CDLs to non-citizens.
CDLs are meaningless because all of these states have given them out like, when somebody produces that CDL, they think, oh, they're here lawfully, when in fact, they're an illegal alien.
According to police, Singh falsified his logbook before the crash by enlisting a co-driver to extend his hours. Police say he also made, quote, no attempt to brake, killing Blake Pearson, who was simply stuck in traffic. His sister says the system failed Pearson, his wife, and children. Held for vehicular homicide, DHS wanted to deport Singh. Instead, he was released when the state didn't charge him. The Highway Patrol telling Fox, quote, this case is complex and we're still under investigation. We have found additional detail and needed to withdraw the original complaint. The case will be refiled in the near future.
Yeah, utterly insane, right? It's hard to believe this story is even real, but then again, there is the reality of liberalism. These people claim that they just care about healthcare and education. We're the side of compassion and humanity and all this garbage. And then in reality, it's basically just a suicidal death cult. And I mean that quite literally. Liberal policies get Americans killed all the freaking time. And instead of taking any accountability, even in this case, trying to pretend that, oh, we don't have anything to do with that, we're going to actually charge this guy. It's like, no, let's just let you back onto the streets in the name of criminal justice reform or something. I mean, utterly insane. But that said, let us count the number of right-wing conspiracy theories that are proven correct in one single story, because the list does go down here. So, first of all, it is confirmed this person was a Biden migrant, a Biden illegal alien, as you can see. Singh, Kamalpreet Singh here is his name, an Indian illegal alien. By the way, it's worth noting, right, the whole thing about how people were literally flying from all around the world into Mexico and Latin American countries simply to cross under Biden. That is real. But anyways, Singh was arrested by U.S. Border Patrol agents in Lukeville, Arizona, after crossing illegally into the United States on December 23rd, 2023, but was released into the country instead of being detained, an ICE source said. So that's not surprising, but it is worth pointing out, yes, there are millions of cases like this. This is far from alone. This is what the Biden administration was basically doing with every single illegal alien, including people who were even on terrorist watch lists. Yes, that is a real story. But it didn't stop there. They didn't just release him into this country. He was given a commercial driver's license, a CDL, by what state? California. And it's worth noting that although the Trump administration did recently implement stricter guidelines in terms of hiring non-citizens and illegals to or just allowing them to have CDLs to begin with, it is folks already against federal law to give out a CDL to an illegal. Okay, that was already on the books before. The Trump administration is basically just now saying we're actually going to enforce this rule. So, as we talked about a couple months ago, when Gavin Newsom on this very CDL issue tried to say, we're compliant with federal law, the Trump administration needs to stop blaming us for it, this is a big conspiracy. No, it's not, actually. Blue states were giving out a ton of CDLs to illegals, and as a result, the downstream consequence of that has been what? In many different cases, in many different states this year, yes, Americans have been killed as a result. And again, I ask, what do you expect?
You understand English? You do? Why did you park here? No good. Is there anybody else in the truck? Is there anybody else in the truck?
My company.
Your company. Okay, you don't understand English. Pants. Put your pants on.
Pants on? What?
Put your pants on. Pants. Put some pants on.
Yeah, okay.
You don't understand English. What company do you work for?
My company, California.
Your company's called California?
Yeah,
you don't understand me.
Your reaction, Mr. Secretary.
Yeah, so first up, it begs the question, how in the hell did someone like that get a driver's license, right? Because we have requirements that you have to be proficient in speaking English. And so whether you're at the DMV in California and issuing a license, or the school that tested him that would have, said he's proficient as a driver and sent him to the DMV in California, there's multiple trigger points where someone should have flagged this guy that he should not be driving. The problem, specifically in California, but also in other states, is that they're not enforcing the English-only provisions of our federal law.
Especially, right? If you're going to bring in a migrant truck driver, can they at least be from, I don't know, Canada or Europe or, some place where the traffic laws and the driving is remotely similar to the United States? Why does it always have to be the third world? Very interestingly, again, I just say to people, if you've never seen what it's like driving in an Indian city, just look up a video of it, go do it right now, right? And then look at that and say, yeah, I wonder why the illegals from over there keep crashing here in the United States. It's not freaking complicated because it's a third world country.
So there is an expression in Polish.
Oh my God, seriously.
Got this? Oh, yeah.
Oh, wow.
So this expression.
Okay? Gee, it's so freaking common, and then we're called racist, right? We talked about that on the channel too earlier this year. I know it's a lot of end of year recapping here, but it's the same story over and over again, right? They said, the Trump is requiring truck drivers to speak English. That's racist. Oh, you have to read the road signs, by the way. But no, that's racist. And also, guys, it is going to create a labor shortage of truck drivers. Wow. Well, what's worse then? Let me ask the question to liberals. First of all, that's not true. Because truck driving is an extremely common profession among U.S. citizens. The only reason American companies try to hire these illegals is because they're cheaper and they like to undercut the rules. But even if that were true, okay, what's worse, guys? Serious question. What would be worse? A labor shortage in truck driving? Hey, maybe the supply chain's kind of screwed up. Okay, fine. Or Americans freaking dying because you let a bunch of dangerous illegals on the road. I prefer my life, actually. I know, hot take. I prefer my Amazon or FedEx package to come a couple days late than I do dying on the freaking road, liberals. But apparently, this is the left in 2025. We're so about left-wing politics unless it comes to immigration, in which case, don't you know about the GDP or something like that? Just garbage. Anyways, that said, so there's two, right? He was given a CDL by a blue state, even though he was a Biden illegal alien. That's already against the law. Multiple things went wrong here. It doesn't stop there. He further falsified the logbook, which means what? Oh, he was committing fraud? Oh, so in other words, let's break this down, right? Again, the criminal machine. Democrat Party lets an illegal into the country, releases them, okay, gives them a CDL fraudulently, illegally, then allows them to go use that CDL to commit more fraud, to actually just steal money from various different sources. So I feel like I've seen that story before, right? And then furthermore, at the end of it, what happens in Washington state? They don't even charge the guy. Now they're saying, oh, it's because the case is nuanced. We got to bring new charges at some point. Okay, yeah, totally believe that, right? No, they released this guy out of jail, likely because they wanted to stick it to ICE. Haha, ICE, don't you know? We let this dangerous criminal out into the streets yet again. And there you essentially have it. So keep in mind, guys, that when we've been saying sanctuary cities are a sanctuary for criminals, that's exactly what we meant. It's not an exaggeration. It's not a conspiracy theory. No, Democrat states actually are not charging illegal aliens who kill people and then releasing them out into the streets so that way ICE has a hard time trying to find them. And we've been trying to tell you that, haven't we?
Because if you don't let ICE in the jail to talk to the illegal alien that you locked in a jail cell, not us. You took an illegal alien and locked him in a jail cell. That's who we want to talk to. But instead of letting us give us access to it, honoring or detaining, what did you release them in the public? What does that mean? That means the men and women of ICE are going to go out in the neighborhood and find them. So sanctuary cities are going to get exactly what they don't want. More agents in the community and more collateral arrests because you have forced us in the community because you failed to let us in the jail. What a shame. Why not give access? Someone in the country that committed a crime against U.S. citizens sitting in jail. Why not give access ICE to that person so when you're done with them, we can have them and do our job? Because releasing a public safety threat back in the public is just stupid. Just common sense.
Border Czar Tom Homan joins me now. Sir, what's your message to the sanctuary city mayors? What would you say to them?
Well, look, I met with the House Republicans yesterday and went over sanctuary cities and the dangerous sanctuary cities. Sanctuary city mayors are going to say this. We're a sanctuary city, we're a welcoming community because we want victims and witnesses of a crime to feel comfortable coming to the police and report a crime as a victim or witness without worry that we're working with ICE. That is a false narrative because victims and witnesses of crime do not want the bad guy back in the community. They would much rather this person be taken in custody of ICE after the county's done with them. That's the message. Sanctuaries are sanctuary criminals. And as far as the mayor of Boston saying safest city, well, I know 9 children that would disagree with her. 9 parents, sets of parents whose children were sexually assaulted, raped by people who are not supposed to be here in the country legally. So we're going to provide real examples of people that they've released from custody in these sanctuary cities that ICE took a lot of time to find these people and take them off the streets. And who knows how many children were attacked by these people between the time the county released them and ICE was able to find them, because sometimes it takes months. So we're going to present real life situations on real victims of real illegal immigration crime.
Well, yeah, certainly it is stupid. It defies all basic logic as to why you would do that. You know, this is not an issue of, oh, I think that people who are illegal in the country, but, you know, living their lives, not committing crimes, they necessarily shouldn't get deported. That's the old school liberal stance or whatever. I disagree with it. But still, no, he already killed someone. He had charges of vehicular homicide. Again, he should have never been in the country. He's not supposed to be receiving a CDL. He was committing fraud, by the way, while he was on the road. So many, this is not a good guy, right? And they still let him out of jail anyway. So it really does beg the question as to what the motive could be there, because I will again say I don't think it's just simply an issue of woke politics and naive, hippie liberals. No. This is actively malicious what they're doing. We'll revisit that in a second. But on that topic, I'd further like to ask, you know, here, let me just read this detail for you. So a semi-truck driver who is identified as an illegal alien from India was released from jail on a $100,000 bond after he was accused of causing a crash in Washington state that claimed the life of a 29-year-old man. Okay, $100,000 bond. The guy's an illegal, by the way. I really asked the question of how he came up with that money. I don't know. Maybe I'm a conspiracy theorist, but after all, I mean, I doubt he has that money himself. He's an illegal alien truck driver. Maybe he took one of those random payday bond loans or whatever. I don't know, but I'm not sure why you would give out that loan for the bond, because after all, he's an illegal. Very likely at the end of this case, he's going to get deported. How are you going to get the money back? I don't know. So to me, it does genuinely beg the question, who is paying these bail bonds? Seriously. I don't know. I'm just saying it's something to look into, right? Could it be the case that time and time again, some type of left-wing donor, right? The Soros NGO industrial complex, something from there, is potentially helping to pay for some of this stuff. I don't know, right? But it just seems odd to me because this is not the first case we've covered where this violent criminal or illegal alien manages to post an absurdly high bond number and you're asking yourself, wait, that doesn't seem to make a whole lot of sense, right? But could it be that some crazy leftist is trying to set up what they think is the Underground Railroad, right? Run free, illegal alien, escape massa, right? Like, I don't know. But again, there you have the timeline. So let's let this person into the country. Let's fraudulently give them a CDL. Let's let them not only commit fraud, but kill people. But then conveniently at the end of it, our quote unquote liberal politics will make sure that this person is freed from jail and will help them through the Underground Railroad escape ICE. Yeah, clearly this is a little bit deeper than just being naive woke hippies. Again, I think that clearly there's some type of mass fraud operation going on. Minnesota's a prime example, but I don't think it's the only case here. But that said, here's my question too. So at what point is the federal government going to step in and just seriously actually lay the hammer down on these states? I know we ask that all the time. And look, in defense of the Trump administration, anything they try to do, whether it's pull federal funding or send the National Guard or even try to enforce existing federal laws, whatever it is, the judges are going to step in and say, oh, no, you can't do that, right? But something has to give at a certain point. I'm just saying, right? Because how is it that these blue states just flagrantly disregard federal law, ignore ICE detainers, and in the process are actively causing public harm, releasing criminals back out into the streets? That's not a conspiracy theory. That's not an exaggeration. That's actually what these policies say. That's what they do. That's what they're intended to do. I don't know. But you can let me know your thoughts on all of that, guys, in the comment section down below. That said, let me know your thoughts. Be sure to leave a like on this video, subscribe to the channel if you are new, and until next time, God bless and peace.